Shedeur Sanders has absolutely shocked the fashion world and made an extraordinary debut with luxury fashion brand AMIRI in Paris. Where do you think you get your swag from? And what this owner said in that private meeting reveals why traditional NFL power structures are terrified of what Shedeur just started. So, don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. This isn't about fashion. It was never about fashion. The moment I heard emergency calls, closed-door meetings, and owners scrambling behind the scenes, I knew exactly what this really was. Because the NFL does not panic over clothes. It doesn't lose its mind over runway shows. It panics when control starts slipping through its fingers. Think about it. Players sign endorsement deals every single year. Sneakers, energy drinks, headphones, chains, cars, we barely blink anymore. That stuff gets announced, posted on Instagram, and everyone moves on. But this triggered something different. This triggered fear. Real fear. The kind that makes billionaires pick up the phone and start demanding answers. And that's how you know this moment mattered. Because when owners start calling the commissioner instead of their PR teams, something bigger is happening. When conversations go private, when voices get raised behind closed doors, when words like precedent and protocol start flying around, that's not business as usual. That's damage control. That's the old guard, realizing the game might be changing faster than they're comfortable with. Here's the part that should make every fan stop and really think. This isn't a veteran superstar doing this. This isn't a future Hall of Famer with 10 years of leverage built up. This is a rookie, a young quarterback who hasn't even had time to establish himself on Sundays yet, and somehow that was enough to shake ownership rooms across the league. That should tell you everything. Owners aren't reacting logically here. If this was truly no big deal, there wouldn't be emergency meetings. There wouldn't be leaked rants. There wouldn't be whispers about new rules, new language, new restrictions. You don't rewrite the rulebook unless you're scared of what happens if you don't. And that's where the truth sits. This isn't about protecting partnerships. That's the clean, corporate-friendly explanation. This is about maintaining hierarchy, about keeping players in a system where power flows one direction from the top down. Because for decades, that's how the NFL has worked. Players play, owners decide. And if you want to step outside that structure, you're supposed to ask first. Except now, somebody didn't ask. And the league didn't know how to handle that. Fans should care about this because this moment isn't isolated. It's a signal. It's a pressure point. It's proof that the balance between players and ownership isn't as locked in as it used to be. The NFL sells itself as progressive, player-friendly, modern. But when push comes to shove, when real autonomy shows up without permission, the reaction tells the real story. This isn't outrage rooted in principle. It's emotional. It's reactive. It's the kind of response you only see when authority feels challenged. When something happens outside the lanes, everyone quietly agreed to stay inside. So, ask yourself this. If this was really harmless, if this didn't matter, if this wasn't a threat to how things have always been done, why does it feel like the house is on fire right now? Rookies aren't supposed to do this. That's the unspoken rule everyone in the league understands, even if nobody ever writes it down. When you're new, you keep your head down. You show up early. You say the right things. You don't rock the boat. You don't act bigger than the shield. And you definitely don't make moves that force owners to pay attention to you before you've even taken a meaningful snap. That's why this situation feels so wild. Look at where this player sits in the NFL ecosystem right now. Draft status that says prove it. A team situation filled with uncertainty, pressure, and eyes watching every rep. Expectations that swing wildly, depending on who you ask. Some see upside, some see risk, some are just waiting to say, "I told you so." This is usually the moment where young quarterbacks shrink themselves to fit the room. But that's not what's happening here. Because this rookie didn't walk into the league empty-handed. He didn't arrive hoping the NFL would give him power someday. He arrived with it. social media reach that rivals established stars, a personal brand that already exists outside of football. Money that didn't start flowing the moment he signed his rookie deal, it was already there. That changes everything. We're in the NIL era now, whether the NFL fully accepts it or not. These guys come in understanding leverage before their first OTA. They know how to negotiate. They know how to monetize attention. They know their value doesn't start and end on Sundays. And that mindset? It clashes hard with a league built on tradition and hierarchy. This is where the imbalance really shows. Owners still see rookies as apprentices, as assets that need seasoning, as voices that should wait their turn. But the players don't see themselves that way anymore. They see themselves as brands, as businesses, as independent operators who just happen to play football at the highest level. And fans feel that split too. Some fans love it. They see confidence. They see a young quarterback owning who he is, unapologetic, comfortable in his skin. They see the same energy we saw when guys like Jalen Hurts stopped fitting the old narrative and started writing their own. They respect the boldness because it feels authentic to this generation. Others hate it. They call it a distraction. They say, focus on football. Like football exists in a vacuum. Like the league itself isn't built on marketing, image, and money. And a lot of media coverage quietly leans that way, framing this as risky, premature, or disrespectful to the process. But here's the truth that keeps getting danced around. This power didn't come from the NFL. It wasn't granted. It wasn't earned through years of service. It was built before he ever showed up. The league didn't create this leverage, it inherited it. And that's what makes everyone uncomfortable. Because once a rookie shows you he doesn't need permission to move like this, it forces the league to confront a reality it's been avoiding. The next generation isn't waiting their turn, they're bringing their power with them, and the NFL still hasn't figured out how to deal with that. We've heard this song before. The moment the backlash started rolling in, I knew exactly how it was going to sound, because the script never changes. Different player, different year, same recycled lines. He hasn't earned it yet. Focus on football. This is a bad look. The league has rules for a reason. Every time a young player steps out of line, those phrases come flying in like clockwork. And here's the thing, none of that is actually about football. When people say, he hasn't earned it, what they really mean is, he hasn't waited long enough. He hasn't paid his dues in the way they're comfortable with. Because earning, in this league, has never just been about performance. It's about obedience, about timing, about knowing your place in the hierarchy. Focus on football sounds responsible on the surface. It sounds like wisdom, but it only ever gets said when a player does something the league can't control. Owners can focus on money, branding, expansion, international games, new revenue streams. That's called business. Players do it, and suddenly it's a distraction. This is a bad look. For who? For the player or for the system that's being exposed? Because the only reason it looks uncomfortable is because it breaks the image the league likes to project young players. Grateful for the opportunity, quietly falling in line, letting the machine move them where it wants. And then there's the big one. The league has rules for a reason. That phrase gets thrown around like it's sacred, like the rules descended from the sky untouched. But let's be honest, the league bends rules all the time when it benefits ownership, scheduling, contracts, revenue splits, partnerships. Flexibility exists when it's convenient. What changes is the tone when a player makes a move independently, when a young quarterback doesn't ask permission, when someone bypasses the usual approval chain and still wins. That's when the criticism sharpens. That's when it gets personal. That's when people stop talking about process and start talking about respect. And that's where the double standard becomes impossible to ignore. Owners monetize everything. Every celebration, every rivalry, every story, every personality. The league constantly tells players to build their brand, to be marketable, to be visible, until that brand building happens outside the league's control. Then it's suddenly reckless. Suddenly it's selfish. Suddenly it's a problem. They say it's about rules. It's never about rules. It's about obedience. Because if this was really about integrity, the response would be calm, measured, professional. There wouldn't be panic. There wouldn't be outrage. There wouldn't be emotional reactions behind closed doors. You don't get that level of heat unless something deeper is being threatened. And the fact that this criticism feels so familiar should tell you everything you need to know. We've seen this before. Different faces, same fear. The league isn't reacting to a mistake, it's reacting to a challenge. And once you see that, you start to realize the backlash isn't exposing the player at all. It's exposing the system. There's a moment in every power shift where the people in charge realize something terrifying, they can't rewind it. And this is that moment for the NFL. Because once this situation crossed into lawyers, optics, and player rights, there was no clean way to put the toothpaste back in the tube. Let's start with the legal reality. This isn't some gray area stunt. This isn't a loophole that got exploited by accident. Players are independent contractors. That's not opinion, that's the foundation the league itself stands on. They negotiate contracts, they hire agents, they sign endorsement deals. The NFL can suggest, it can apply pressure, but it can't outright stop a player from making money outside of the game without opening itself up to a legal nightmare. And that's where the league hesitated. Because once lawyers start whispering words like rights and precedent, everything changes. You're no longer talking about vibes or tradition. You're talking about what can actually be enforced. And suddenly, all that authority starts looking a lot thinner. Then there's the optics. This part matters more than the league wants to admit. The NFL is painfully aware of how these situations look in public. Billionaire owners trying to rein in a young quarterback for making money on his own terms? That's not a great headline. That doesn't play well on social media. And it definitely doesn't play well with a fan base that's already skeptical about who really benefits from this league. And looming over all of it is the NFLPA. Everyone knows how this ends if it turns into a real fight. The players' union is not going to sit quietly while the league tries to tighten control over off-field earnings. That's a line they will defend aggressively. Any attempt to roll this back turns into a labor issue fast, and the league does not want that smoke. This is where the generational divide becomes impossible to ignore. You've got younger owners and executives who understand modern branding, influencer culture, and player-driven value. They see this and think, adapt or get left behind. Then you've got the old-school crowd clinging to precedent, to the way things have always been done, hoping tradition can still slow the future down. But the brands? They've already chosen sides, and they're choosing players. Because players bring culture. Players bring eyeballs. Players bring authenticity. Institutions bring structure, sure, but culture moves faster than structure ever will. And that's where the ripple effects start. Agents are watching this closely. Every young player coming into the league is watching this. They're seeing what's possible when you don't wait for permission. Brands are watching too, realizing they don't need to go through the league to reach fans. They can go straight to the faces people actually care about. This wasn't just a move. It was a signal. And signals don't get taken back. Whether the league likes it or not, the door is open now. Players have seen what autonomy looks like in real time. Brands have seen the upside, and the NFL has seen the limits of its control. This isn't the end of the story, it's the point of no return. Years from now, people are going to point back to this moment and say, that's when it shifted. Not because of a rule change, not because of a press release, but because one player moved like the future before the league, was ready to admit the future was already here. This is how change actually happens in the NFL. Not loudly, not cleanly. It happens through controversy, through discomfort, through moments that make the league defensive instead of confident. Nobody remembers the players who played it safe. Nobody builds a new era by asking permission. And that's why this moment is going to be remembered. Because what just happened created a blueprint. Future players are watching this closely. Not just quarterbacks, everyone. Wide receivers, corners, pass rushers, guys coming into the league already knowing their value, already understanding that football is the platform, not the ceiling. They're seeing that you don't have to wait 5 years to move like an adult in this business. You can already feel where this is headed. 5 years from now, independent fashion deals won't be shocking. They'll be normal. Brand partnerships won't be filtered through league comfort. They'll be built directly around players. And the NFL will adapt the only way it ever does when it loses leverage. Quietly, reluctantly, without admitting it ever fought back in the first place. Because that's how the league survives. It doesn't win by force. It wins by absorbing change and pretending it was always part of the plan. And let's get one thing straight. This isn't rebellion. That's the lazy framing. Rebellion implies chaos. This isn't chaos. This is strategy. This is a generation that grew up watching athletes build empires before their careers ended. This is understanding that your value isn't something you wait for someone else to define. It's not selfish either. Selfish is hoarding power. Selfish is demanding loyalty while extracting maximum value. What this is? It's evolution. It's players stepping into spaces the league benefited from for decades and saying, "We're here now too." That's why this moment hits differently. It's not loud. It's not reckless. It's confident, calm, calculated. And those are the moments that scare institutions the most, when someone moves forward without asking and doesn't flinch when the noise starts. So now it's on you. Pick a side. Do you side with a system that's always required patience and silence before opportunity? Or do you side with players who understand that waiting your turn isn't the same thing as earning your place? Because this debate isn't going away. It's only getting bigger from here. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Argue it out. That's the community. That's the conversation. Because moments like this don't happen often, but when they do, they don't just make headlines. They change everything.